Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Fremont Police Department Community Meeting with Mayor Mei. Please hold on for a minute while we get everyone accepted into the meeting. Hello, welcome again. My name is Amy G, and I'm the Public Affairs Manager for the Fremont Police Department. Welcome to our community meeting tonight with Mayor Mei. This meeting is being recorded for future viewing purposes. Today's meeting will take place in a webinar format. There will be a PowerPoint presentation, followed by a dialogue between Mayor Mei and Police Chief Sean Washington. After the presentation and the dialogue, we will have a Q&A session. We are utilizing the Q&A function in Zoom. So at any time, if you have a question, please feel free to type it into the Q&A box. As the meeting progresses, we will try to address some of the questions within the Q&A box as appropriate, so you may see a typed response. At the end of the meeting during the Q&A session, we will verbally address as many remaining questions as possible. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to Mayor Mei. Mayor?
Thank you. So hello and welcome this evening to our community meeting. And we're delighted to have you join us. Thank you for taking the time to attend. I'm looking forward to the conversation and sharing with you some of the efforts that have been made by the Fremont Police Department. And tonight we'll be focusing specifically on some of the crime data. And while we continue to offer virtual meetings for your convenience of our residents, and it's also consistent with what we're doing right now with our council and commission meetings. We are happy to be hosting 2 in-person outdoor events at the police department. One is Coffee with the Cop on October 5th, and the details are on the screen right now, and also is the Public Safety Fair, which we are very excited to be able to bring back to being in person on October 8th. We hope that you will see us, we will get to see all of you there. To kick off this evening's presentation, I would like to introduce our Police Chief, Sean Washington. And we just wanted to again say thank you for joining us this evening.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you this evening. Obviously, the purpose of this meeting is to provide you with some updates, information that might be relative or you might be interested in hearing tonight. So I understand that some of you are here for different reasons. You may have specific topics of interest. There's a lot of material and a lot of information that I'm going to cover tonight. So I apologize in advance. It is going to be a lot of information, but like the mayor said, we will have other opportunities for you to engage with us and get clarifying questions and have some more dialogue in person here in the coming weeks. So I look forward to that. And we want to first off review some of our crime statistics. We're going to go over our community perspective and cultural awareness initiatives, talk a little bit about police staffing and recruitment, because I've been asked a lot of questions about that recently. And then, like we said, we're going to have a dialogue, Mayor Mei and I, and then have some time to answer some of the questions that you might have. I'm very fortunate to have members of my command team on the call. So if there are specifics and information that I may not have the direct answer to, my team will work on getting you an answer. But I'd like to start off by stating just a sincere thanks to our community. I've said many times that the Fremont remains a wonderful community and is able to effectively respond to crime because of the unique, productive, and cooperative relationship we have with those who live and work in this fine city. I would also like to commend and thank all of our FPD professionals and volunteers who provide the highest level of service each and every day. Please be clear. Our staff has endured a tremendous amount of change and challenge over the past few years. We will always maintain a willingness to evolve and improve. However, there has been an impact. The impact of sometimes unfair and unwarranted negativity directed towards law enforcement and categorizing all law enforcement officers in a certain manner has impacted our staff. This community has rallied behind their police department, and I can't thank you enough. In addition to those challenges, you layer on top of that the ongoing COVID pandemic, the great resignation that is impacting all industries, and the necessary rapid internal change that we've had to endure. And then, as many of you know, we had a tragic and sudden loss of one of our most respected police personnel. So we've had some challenges, but through those challenges, my staff has endured and they have continued to serve this community effectively and professionally. So I just want to start there because it's important that although I sing the praises of our staff, if you feel the same way about your police department and the folks who serve you, I ask that when you have an opportunity, please thank them and please commend them for their ongoing professional service. A little bit about Fremont. So as you know, we have a large city. It still has that small town feel, but it is the second largest city in the Bay Area with over 90 square miles. It's the fourth most populous city in the Bay Area as well. So I put that into context because we do the best we can with a large city. However, it is important to recognize that Fremont continues to be one of the safest communities with this population in the nation. We have, however, recently experienced increases in certain types of crimes, while others have remained the same, and some have actually decreased. What we are experiencing right now as a community is consistent with what our nation is experiencing as far as the increases in certain types of crimes. I'm going to go through statistics today, but I always start by saying these are numbers. These are numbers that represent actual people or victims. So if I make a comment regarding an increase or decrease in the progress in any one crime category, I want you to know that it is not my intention to diminish the impact a crime has had on an individual or a group. I want to be sensitive to all persons who have been impacted by crime. So tonight, we're going to focus on gun violence and shootings, grand thefts, catalytic converters, street racing, sideshow activity, traffic safety, homelessness, and then hate crimes and hate incidents. And we selected these particular crimes to focus on because these seem to be of most interest to our communities. So we wanted to be responsive to those concerns. We'll start by reviewing crime statistics on our shooting incidents and firearms arrests. Violent crime is our top priority. The goal is to investigate and reduce shootings and gun crimes. We focus on quick apprehension and to prevent additional incidents. In 2021, we made 20 arrests of priority subjects identified by gun violence, and that was made by our gun violence reduction team, and I'll talk about that in a bit. In 2022, we have made 32 firearm-related arrests. Guns are the issue. Guns in the hands of irresponsible people and criminals are the issue. We're not talking about responsible gun owners who do the right thing. But illegal guns are impacting our communities throughout the nation. So I will talk a little bit more about a planned gun buyback program a little bit later in the presentation as well. But as you can see, in 2020 to 2021, we saw a sharp increase in the number of shooting incidents and firearm-related arrests. This year, unfortunately, we're about the same. The statistics indicate that these statistics were gathered through the month of June. However, you could see that the gun-related incidents are still very prevalent in our communities. So with that increase, although still relatively low for a community our size, remember we have almost 250,000 people here in the city of Fremont. This is unusual for Fremont to be experiencing this type of gun violence. However, in response, last year, we created a gun violence reduction team. This team of highly trained and skilled officers were tasked with identifying persons who pose the highest risk to our community. And the objective was to prevent the illegal use of firearms and associated violence, utilizing follow-up investigation, apprehension, and youth engagement. We believe these highly trained officers made an impact and really stabilized the sharp increase that we saw in gun violence last year. Another proactive tool we hope to make an impact is the gun buyback program that we hope to launch in the month of November. This event is intended to educate persons on gun safety and provide an avenue for our community members to voluntarily surrender unwanted firearms voluntarily. Studies show that many crimes involving firearms are committed with stolen firearms. Our department maintains a high level of readiness to respond to active shooter incidents. I know that we have witnessed a lot of active shooter incidents throughout our nation, and we are prepared. I believe Oakland had a similar incident in their city today, which just highlights the need to be prepared. Our training and preparedness meet or exceed industry standards. Our officers are trained and equipped to deploy rapidly if necessary, and sometimes solo. A solo response is the answer. If an officer shows up by him or herself and feels that they can make a difference, they are trained to go in by themselves and start to save lives. We also work cooperatively with the Fremont Fire Department to jointly respond in incidents of active shooter incidents that require entry into unsecured environments to provide medical treatment to persons who may be injured. In fact, our next training event is scheduled for next month. On a side note, we also have and will continue to offer to our community for no charge, safety sessions for community groups, businesses, and religious organizations seeking information on active shooter training and response. On to our homicides. Homicides and serious assaults. Last year, we had 3 total homicides. Each were solved or resolved by arrest. So far this year, we've had 3 homicides once again. You can see throughout the years, we've averaged 3 or 4 homicides per year. And it appears that we're on track, although I want that number to be 0 because those are people. Again, 3 is too many. 1 is too many. I want that number to be 0. So we're going to do everything we can to be responsive to what appears to be a leveling off, actually a projected increase in our homicide rate. But you know, if we can keep that number 3 right where it is, then that is going to be our objective. Serious assaults and attempted homicide, as you can see, we were trending up over the last couple of years, and we're trying to stabilize that as well. On to the next slide, we will talk about robberies. And so our robberies have been trending down for several years, and we anticipate that trend to continue. The key is quick response through investigation and subsequent arrest. Collaboration with outside agencies to share regional suspect information is also a key component to addressing our robberies. We want to keep this trend headed in the right direction. And with all of these crimes, we want to send a clear message to any persons that want to come into Fremont to cause harm that we will throw every available resource towards apprehending and bringing those individuals to justice. In the next slide, I'll talk about burglaries, both residential, commercial, and then finally vehicle burglaries as well. High visibility patrols are used as deterrents in identifying hotspots. We focus on repeat offenders. We know that a small percentage of our society are responsible for the majority of our crimes. So we focus our efforts on those who are committing crimes and causing harm in our community. We also are fortunate to have a community that helps to embrace technology as a force multiplier. And so we oftentimes use technology to help address these type of crimes as well. We'll start with residential burglary. You'll see that over the past few years, we've trended down, and that trend seems to be holding steady. So that's good progress. With commercial burglaries, we saw a sharp increase in 2020, we believe was a result of the COVID pandemic. You might remember a lot of businesses closed down, which left those businesses somewhat vulnerable. As folks started going back to work, we saw a decrease in 2021. What we cannot explain is that now that more people are back to work, it seems that we're spiking again in commercial burglaries. So we're studying this trend to see what could be the cause of this sharp increase. Vehicle burglaries, as you can see, those trended down for quite a few years. However, we are starting to see a spike in those types of crimes as well. Again, the goal is to identify and apprehend and recover the loss. Residential burglary is the highest priority for our property crime detectives, providing immediate response towards identifying and apprehending those that are responsible for these crimes. And once again, use of technology is a big force multiplier for us. So we'll move on to the next slide, which is in regards to auto theft. Many of these thefts are committed by repeat offenders. Again, we focus on the technology like automated license plate readers and cameras and those type of things to try to mitigate this crime. We have seen a steady increase in this type of crime over the last couple of years, and it appears that that increase is continuing. So we're working with our local partners and our regional partners to try to figure out who is responsible for these crimes and how best to team up and bring these folks to justice. On to the next slide, where we will talk about grand thefts and catalytic converter thefts. Now, you understand that catalytic converter thefts is a regional and national issue. So the increases in grand theft can be attributed to catalytic converter thefts. Tackling this issue is complicated. It requires regional information sharing with our partner and allied agencies. You also might remember in July of this year, our detectives did a fantastic job with a multi-month-long investigation of a recycler who was responsible for dealing and selling illegally possessed catalytic converter devices. We had some state legislation recently that may help with this issue, and I'll explain that a little bit later. In 2021 was our highest year in about 20 years as it relates to grand theft. And again, that was in large part due to catalytic converters. The incidents are occurring throughout our city and throughout our region, and typically the cost to a victim is about $1,500 to replace or repair this equipment. Profit for the seller is approximately $800. Our investigations focus on secondhand dealers and fences. We also try to focus on education and prevention to our community members. Some of you may remember, we anticipated this crime would continue to plague our community last year throughout the state. I included the catalytic converter thefts in my chief transition plan as a result of studying the trends and receiving feedback from all of you on how concerned you were about this particular crime. In the past, our investigations unit completed this complex multi-month-long investigation, and we experienced a temporary reduction in these types of thefts. But the criminals have adjusted and they have moved on, and this crime is continuing. So we will continue to throw resources at this particular issue and work with our partner agencies to try to make a difference, because we know how impactful it is and how concerning it is for our community. So on to Assembly Bill 1740. So this was passed in the Senate, and it reads the following. This bill would require a core recycler to include additional information in written record, including the year, make, and model of the vehicle from which the catalytic converter was removed, and a copy of the title of the vehicle from which the catalytic converter was removed. The bill would prohibit a core recycler from entering into a transaction to purchase or receive a catalytic converter from a person that is not a commercial enterprise as defined or verifiable owner of the vehicle. So essentially what this means is that you're gonna have to sell and build these devices legitimately. Now, we know that the criminals will adjust, but this is another tool that I'm glad the state finally took some action to try to help us protect you better. On to the next slide, we will talk about street racing and sideshow activity. So sideshow and street racing was another issue that I noted after having multi-meetings with our community prior to taking over as chief. I included this in my transition plan as well, understanding that we needed to focus our efforts on this growing issue. Over the past year, our department developed plans and partnered with allied agencies in a combined effort to mitigate these crimes. Sideshows are difficult to address, as they are often spontaneous and highly mobile. Recently, my staff worked with the city attorney's office on an ordinance that makes it a crime to promote or be a promoter at a sideshow or street racing event. Some of the surrounding jurisdictions have similar ordinances, which are used as another tool to deter and hold accountable those who come to our city to disrupt and cause harm. The ordinance was adopted earlier this month and will be effective next month or in November. Our statistics indicate that due to the responsive efforts of FPD staff, we have enjoyed a sharp decrease in the frequency of these events as compared to 2021. And that's what's reflected on the chart here. You can see starting in 2018, we started to have increases, and in 2020, we peaked at 175 of these events. After implementing some of the strategies and plans by the police department, we saw a decline to 95 total events. And now you can see the numbers year to date from January to June, we've had 22 incidents. So on the next slide, we'll talk about traffic safety. As stated in my opening, traffic related services was identified as another topic of interest for our community. Traffic collisions, not necessarily injury collisions. So these statistics talk about all the collisions, injury and non-injury. So if there was a property damage only type collision, those are what these numbers represent. FPD, our department, has a great relationship with traffic engineering and holds monthly meetings to discuss traffic safety. In 2013, we started to deploy what's called traffic saturation patrols throughout our communities. This program was created to increase the presence in high collision areas in schools and act as a deterrent. So we use data and statistics to guide us into areas that may be of concern. And again, with 90 square miles, we have to use data in order to prioritize where to deploy our limited number of resources. Traffic and patrol enforcement deployed to key hotspots during peak hours of activity is also another strategy. And you might know that earlier this year, by necessity, we had to temporarily redeploy several of our traffic officers to a hybrid deployment model, which means that they had to not only do traffic related duties, but also they were responsible for routine patrol-related calls for service. And this was all due to staffing shortages in the patrol division. Fortunately, we were able to develop a plan recently that allowed these traffic officers to resume full-time their duties in the traffic division. So you can see that traffic-related collisions have been stable and or decreasing over the past few years. We believe that this is some of these decreases were as a result of the COVID pandemic, where we didn't have a lot of traffic volume, but we are starting to see an uptick as people start to get back into commuting and those type of things. So in addition to vehicular or automobile collisions, we also plan to offer information on bicycle safety at our upcoming community safety fair next month. We recently had a discussion with the management team to recommit our traffic safety objectives by asking patrol officers to use their discretionary time to conduct enforcement, utilizing citations, warnings, warning notices, and or education. We also have a plan to purchase some additional speed detection devices in the coming months. The next slide, I will get into homelessness. So this is not an issue that our police department can or should be solely responsible for addressing. Homelessness is not a crime, and members of our department will not use homelessness solely as a basis for detention or law enforcement action. If crimes are committed, however, by persons who are unhoused, our department will treat them with compassion, but also hold them accountable for their actions with enforcement when appropriate. FPD is a partner and has a specific role in a comprehensive effort to address homelessness. Various departments throughout our city provide support services, and we work closely with them. This is a complex issue and will ultimately, in my opinion, require support and assistance from state and federal governments to properly address this issue. Several months ago, the City of Fremont Human Services Department and the Police Department produced an information sheet that included statistics and information on our city's homeless issues, and you can access that on our website. And the next slide represents a few of our statistics regarding our homeless population and criminal activity. Now, it's important to understand, although we're talking about calls for service and law enforcement interactions, it's important for me to understand that we don't want to label homeless individuals as criminals, because that is not the case. So you can see here that homeless disturbance calls for service account for about 3% of our total calls for service. Our mental health evaluation calls or reports, when we get called to a situation where an individual is suffering from some sort of mental health crisis, you can see that we've been on a steady decline for the past few years. And that has a lot to do with our mobile evaluation team. The follow-up that they do with these individuals to provide resources and support services, I think, has made a big difference. As with homelessness, this is a complex issue that is going to require support from the state and federal governments. In regards to homelessness, the issue for our homeless population is shelter. We receive many calls from our community members that have frustrations about homeless encampments and those type of things, and we share those frustrations. Sometimes there's expectations that we will come out and remove a particular encampment, but if we don't solve the problem of the person getting the person housed, we're just going to be moving the issue throughout the city from one neighborhood to the next. So I congratulate our mobile evaluation team. I ask for our community's ongoing patience as we continue to try to find strategies collectively as a city resource. In the next slide, I will talk about hate crimes and hate incidents. Hate crimes and hate incidents are an unfortunate reality to our society. However, these despicable acts will not be tolerated. It is important to note that there is a difference between a hate crime and a hate incident. And I'll get into those definitions in a bit. And hate incident, I myself was impacted by a hate incident earlier this year when a Zoom call, I unfortunately was called some very hurtful and hateful words. So I understand, although it didn't rise to the level of a crime, the impact that it had on me and my family, I certainly understand how it impacts our community. I felt the pain, the disrespect, the sadness and disappointment, so I do understand. A hate crime is a crime against a person, a group, or property motivated by the victim's real or perceived protected social group, like disability, gender, nationality, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, etc. Hate crimes are serious crimes that may result in imprisonment or jail time. A hate incident has the same impact, however, we have limitations on what we can do as law enforcement. A hate incident is an action or behavior motivated by hate, but which, for one or more reasons, is not a crime. Name calling, insults, displaying hate material on someone's own property, posting hate material that does not result in property damage. The US Constitution allows for hate speech as long as it does not interfere with the civil rights of others. And again, I want to emphasize, having recently experienced a hate incident, I understand the impact that it still has on our community, even though it may not be a crime. The next slide. The next slide you will see represents the number of hate crimes that we've had this year. And again, you will see that in 2018, we had 6, and then we dropped to 4, and last year we had 7. So far this year to date, we've had 4 of these incidents. So unfortunately, this is still an issue. In 2021, 3 of these incidents were anti-religion and 3 were anti-race. So far this year, all have been anti-race. Please understand that we will continue to stand with every member of our community to speak out against hateful acts. We will also devote any available resource to investigate, follow up, and apprehend those committing hate crimes in our community. Next slide, our community perspectives and cultural awareness. Again, our relationship with our community is what makes Fremont unique and special. Make no mistake. A primary ongoing objective is to maintain and build trust, legitimacy, and increase engagement with our community. Last year, our patrol division fully implemented a community connections initiative, which challenged officers to identify issues and concerns in their assigned areas and work with our community to try and solve or address those problems. Realistically, we do not have the ability or resources to address every issue in our city. However, we will do all we can with what we have and what's available to help serve you. In addition, over the past year, I challenged the Chiefs Advisory Group to develop a cultural perspective and awareness and history program for our new employees. The history of Fremont is so important, and I want our new employees to understand the history of this fine city. This initiative is intended to provide perspective from our diverse community with the information training delivered by persons who live, work, and play in the city of Fremont, our community members. We are also excited about developing a new youth advisory board. Similar to the Chiefs Advisory Board, this program is specifically designed to hear from our young people. We will obtain thoughts and perspectives from high school aged youth. We are weeks away, actually probably days away from beginning the application process. Our award-winning SRO unit is also developing a career development and future leaders program supportive of you who are interested in a career in law enforcement. See, the ideal here is to invest in those young people who are interested in a career in law enforcement early on while they're in high school and then their early years in college, so that they know they have a home and they can come back and work for this fine police department and this great community. Our department looks forward to getting back to in-person engagement with our community safety fair, as the mayor mentioned, scheduled to take place on October 8th. The next slide. I want to talk a little bit about police staffing and recruiting. It is an ongoing challenge, for sure. On August 5th, I wrote a letter to our community explaining some of those challenges. However, I remain very optimistic that this is a temporary condition for our department. As I stated in my opening, several challenges exist for the law enforcement profession. Over the years, law enforcement has been a difficult profession to hire and retain staff due to the high standards and the challenging nature of the profession. Over the past few years, COVID and other factors have weighed in and made that even more difficult. Some staff simply want to move to other states as family decisions and other life decisions are made, some of our staff. And that's understandable. And we're going to do everything we can to retain those who want to be here. However, there are options out there for our officers. Other internal and external factors all play into a decision of a person to either leave an organization or come join an organization. We are fortunate that we still have a tremendous amount of officers out there that want to come and join the Fremont Police Department. This is an attractive destination for those serving. For the past few months, we have had about a 10 or 12% vacancy rate for police officers, which equates to about 20 to 24 positions. It's important to keep in mind that although those are the police officers, we've had about a 26% vacancy rate for our dispatchers. We have also had vacancies in many of our other service groups and units throughout our department. Again, right now, the Great Resignation or the Great Resignation and the options that people have, we're feeling that as well as a police department. We're not immune from people choosing different careers and those type of things. So we have our work cut out for us. We also have a lot of members that are in training right now, which is the bright side of this picture. We have approximately 20 officers that can't yet go out and serve our community because they're either in the field training program, they're in the police academy, or they're in the in-house training academy. So that's why I remain optimistic that we will be able to overcome our staffing challenges here in the next 6 to 12 months. Our staffing challenges have, by necessity, let me rephrase that. We've had our staffing challenges, but by necessity, we've made some adjustments to our deployment models. This has required some adjustments like I talked about with our traffic unit. We had to temporarily redeploy them back into patrol because we just didn't have an adequate number of resources to sustain basic operations. We've since made some adjustments and implemented a mandatory overtime program to where now we have consistent staffing throughout the patrol division, and it also allows us to staff up some of our specialty units like traffic, like investigations, so we can follow up and follow through on some of our community's highest priorities. Again, on the positive side of things, our personnel unit continued to work diligently to keep Fremont competitive and identify new and innovative ways to attract qualified and competent candidates. We will soon invest in a new recruiting vehicle, which we're excited about, which will enable us to expand our efforts throughout the state. During this budget process, we were able to secure funding thanks to the city manager's office and our city council for advertisement on social media campaigns. And we just received funding for to make us competitive with hiring bonuses and recruitment incentives for our staff. More recently, our bargaining groups successfully finalized a competitive compensation package which will make us competitive or keep us competitive with other agencies out there. My staff continues to work hard. They're being responsive to the community's needs. And because we're able to stabilize our deployment needs, we're able to provide a high level of service to this fine community. And again, we are asking your help. If you know of someone who may be interested in working for this police department and serving this community, please direct them towards your Fremont Police Department because we are hiring. So in the next slide, I'll talk briefly about some of the accomplishments and future initiatives. Again, the SRO program, you might remember, we worked with the Fremont Unified School District to bring those folks back. We've listened to our community concerns. We listened to the concerns of some members of the school board. And in fact, all the hard work of our SRO program produced an award for the model agency throughout the entire nation. We have the model agency SRO program, which was fantastic. And that's due to the hard work of our SROs. We're in the next few years, we are going to have a new CAD RMS system. We also report our stop data. So now all of the officers have to report their stop data when they detain someone. So we implemented that program. Like I talked about before, the Chiefs Youth Advisory Board, our community connections initiatives. And one thing that's excited for us is the Drone as a First Responder program, which is a force multiplier for us as well. And we're going to be talking to our community about that program in the coming weeks. We're going to expand our electric vehicle program, the Real-Time Information Center, which will allow us to be more responsive and have and understand how to better respond to certain types of crimes. And then like I said, we look forward to in-person events. And one thing that I know my staff is excited about is trying to launch a program for our community therapy dogs. And these are just cute dogs that go out into the community and engage and are therapeutic, not only for our community members, but also for our staff here at the police department. All right. This is just a little bit of information about some of the upcoming events that we look forward to. We want to hear from you. So our annual community survey, trust me, I read that information. The priorities that are set by this organization will be reflective of the community's priorities. So last year, the top 3 priorities were violent crime, property crime, and homelessness. And I developed and deployed my resources to be responsive to those top 3 priorities. So I look forward to seeing you all at Coffee with the Cop and the Public Safety Fair. And with that, the next slide talks about how to stay connected with us. And I think that concludes my portion of the presentation.
Well, I just
Thank
wanted
you,
to.
Chief. Go ahead, Mayor Mei. Thank you.
I see that we are joined now by our city manager, Karina Shackleford, and I don't know if you would like to share some things too before I continue.
If you don't mind, yeah, I'd love to. I am so thrilled by everything that the chief has shared. We've been working in concert together to make sure we're meeting the needs of the community. And Mayor Mei, under your direction, we're definitely focusing on our response to homelessness. balancing a need for responding to the needs of the unhoused community, but also to the needs of the business community and the residents as well. So we are definitely making sure we're focusing on that. And so we appreciate the comments from the community, and with the My Fremont app, which allows residents to provide feedback to the community. We're looking forward to hearing from you all about that. That's definitely helpful to us. But yeah, other than that, I'd just like to say thank you to the chief for his presentation and his comments. It's definitely along the lines of what we've talked about in our council retreats and other briefings. And I look forward to continuing with the efforts along those lines.
Thank you. And I wanted to first thank Chief Washington for the robust presentation. I know we speak with many of our community members, and they always look forward to the opportunity to be able to connect with our police department proactively and provide status updates, which are, I think, of always insightful for them on crime trends and also public safety concerns. And I know that there are a few topics that I see trending right now as I've been watching the questions that have been coming in. And we get many questions, and I would love to be able to address those. But we know that the community's input is very much valued. That's just why we're doing the public input opportunity. And we're also doing several in-person ones where that you can ask some of the specific questions that may pertain to your areas. I wanted to first, I guess, some of the concerns I'm seeing still pertain around responsiveness and some of the factors that may impact responsiveness. I know that I've seen some specific questions come in regarding homelessness. What are the things that we can do and can't do in terms of towing vehicles or citing vehicles? And then also some of the jurisdiction in terms of, for example, some properties may not belong to the city, and so we can't actually enter some of those. So I don't know if you could provide some clarification. I know you've responded already earlier and provided some statistics regarding our staffing, but if you could provide additional responses or feedback and guidance on those issues, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yes, no, thank you, Mayor, for that that question on responsiveness. And so, you know, as a police chief, I have to take the resources that I have and try to prioritize those resources in a way that maximizes how and what we can respond to. And so, you know, all issues are important. And so we do our best to respond effectively. Patrol is encouraged to be visible and make an attempt to engage and be responsive to our community's concerns. But throughout a day, we may have, say, 30 or 40 officers assigned to the city at any one given point. And that's with the overlapping shifts and those type of things. So with 90 square miles and a variety of issues that are out there, you know, it's up to my staff, my management team, to try to help prioritize those emergency calls versus calls that maybe will take a little bit longer to get around to as we deploy throughout the day. So we keep those calls for service. We log them. We don't just ignore them. We log them. We try to get around to them as much as we can. And we try to be responsive. We try to communicate to our community if we're not able to respond or there's going to be a delay in a response, and we ask for their patience as we go about the day and try to clear what we call the board of all of the calls for service that are throughout our community. I understand that some of our community members also would like to see more patrols in their particular neighborhoods. And I agree. We will do as much as we can to be as visible as we can to as many neighborhoods as we can in this very large city. So that's the whole purpose of the Community Connections initiative that the Patrol Division has launched, is basically challenging our officers to do just that. Be more visible, drive through neighborhoods, get out, engage with the community as much as they can, understanding that they don't have a whole lot of discretionary time. So we're able to do that, Mayor, and be as responsive as we can. And we will continue to do our best and respond to the concerns that the community express day in and day out.
Thank you.
And I think, Mayor Mei, this is your city manager, Karina Shackleford. I think some of also what you're seeing is that, we're beginning to cite vehicles that are reported or parked for more than 72 hours. We take a, what do I want to call it? We don't take an aggressive approach because we know that, these are real issues that people are facing, but we do interact with those individuals and we try and interact with them in terms of providing services that they may need in terms of helping them, just kind of better prepare for their futures and what they may need in order to be, just kind of more productive individuals in the society. So we are doing that. And that's a coordinated effort between our human resources department and our police department. So those things are happening. So I just want to make that clear for the public, because we definitely want to make sure we're doing what we can to help those who are in need.
No, I appreciate the clarification. I know our Human Services Department, and I know that Chief Washington had cited the efforts from our team, which I really think have been very proactive, and we're added additional resources as a council to that effort because we feel that that's a compassionate, balanced approach. And it has been a tough time also because we are working through a lot of the other regulations that are coming down from the county and other groups in terms of what we can and cannot do in terms of eviction moratoriums. And so I think it's a very balanced approach at this moment. I know that there have been a lot of comments, and we definitely have understood the community's feedback regarding public resources, and we want people to be able to utilize those comfortably. And I know that there was questions at one point about some of those, such as our library and parks. And I don't know if there's anything that anyone would like to add from the staff on that.
Yeah, well, we understand the concerns, and the library, the parks, those areas that are frequented by our community, we certainly try to prioritize those particular areas. And so as a staff, again, working with the other partners throughout the city is key, because no one department can do it alone. And so, yeah, those areas that our parks and our libraries and those type of things, although we have many throughout the city, we try to focus our resources on those areas as well.
The other thing that I'd like to share with the community is that later this fall, next month, actually, the city's Human Services Department, Police Department, City Manager's Department, just a number of departments who are involved in the homelessness matter will be presenting to the City Council just kind of an update on our efforts with regard to homelessness and how our efforts to mitigate it and support those who are experiencing homelessness. So that will be forthcoming in the month of October.
Thank you. And then I also see the question regarding, we talked about efforts, and I know that you highlighted it regarding some of the support and use of technology advancements, and also our advocacy partnership. We've worked closely with some of our legislators and other examples of some of the bills that have come through. But I don't know if you wanted to address any of those efforts. And I know that there's been a lot of collaboration, and I appreciate that you as our chief and also many of our officers are participating in these joint efforts.
Yes, I will start there. Thank you, Mayor. I will start by the partnerships and kind of the legislative side of it. So, there are various police officer professional associations like the Police Chiefs Association and the Police Officers Association, in which we have a seat at the table as it relates to legislation or proposed legislation that we know that will impact law enforcement. And so we, as an association, not as an individual, but as an association, will speak out if we believe that there's legislation that's being proposed that could potentially be harmful or limit our ability to serve our communities. So we will continue to be a part of those groups and associations to ensure that legislation is passed that makes sense and allows us to serve our communities effectively. And so we have a seat at the table. We don't make the laws, but they solicit the police chiefs and the commanders and the police officers for their input on this legislation. So we will continue to be have open and honest conversations about that as we move forward. Now, to your second point, technology advancement and our community's support of technology, that's a game changer for us. Absolutely a game changer. I truly believe it is because our community understands and trusts that we utilize technology responsibly is why we have again, relatively low crime rate as compared to other cities our size. It's because we embrace the technology, and technology is utilized to help bring folks to justice that commit harm to our communities. But we also, the community itself has a role. We encourage you to use technology and register your cameras with the police department and voluntarily submit video to help us in our investigations and those type of things. We also encourage you, when you see something, say something. Report a crime or suspicious activity. We all have a collective duty and responsibility for the safety of our community. So we ask for your help. And then always file a police report if a crime has been occurred. The police reports help us with trends or suspect descriptions and those type of things, and are really, really, really a benefit for us in the long run. So, working together, that's why we have been able to have some successes in mitigating crime. But we also, it's more important than ever for us to work closer together, because we are seeing some increases in certain types of crimes that we all need to work together to mitigate. So thank you for that question, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know we're running a little bit close now on the time. I know that as we said earlier, we're hoping that the public will have a chance to digest some of this information and then also participate in giving us the feedback versus using our online tool, and also even more importantly, hopefully coming back to have the meetings with us in person. And I'm very excited to see that we have the public safety fair. And so we're looking forward to that presentation and that opportunity to be able to have that in-person contact. In closing, is there some other things that you'd like to share? I know that I wanted to first thank the community for the patience. These have been unprecedented times for us with a lot of the changes that have happened in our community. And we appreciate you walking alongside of us and working to come up with these solutions that I think are so critical. And we are definitely concerned as public safety is a key priority for all of us. But we also understand that there's many different challenges that we're working on within the community. And that's why homelessness has been a key focus for us. And that's something that will be highlighted and given the responsibilities, not just for one area of the city, but it's across many of our departments. And in fact, it's something that the council, along with human services, along with police, along with, so many different departments have taken into play. So I thank you for your time. And Chief, would you like to close out?
Yes, thank you. I see that, Amy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that we're addressing a lot of the questions from the community in the chat. Is that accurate?
Yes, we have adjusted over 30 questions through the chat. However, there are close to 20 questions still remaining. We are going through some of them right now. If we do have a few more minutes, I could just briefly group some of these questions. I mean, there were a lot of questions about homelessness, which we've already touched on. There were a few questions about specifically the Metro Crossing community in South Fremont, where they're seeing an increase in crime. There are a few questions regarding cryptocurrency fraud, and if there's anything our community members should be aware of or to do about it. And then there are a few miscellaneous questions regarding overall our police officers, for example, how are they dispatched or where do they live? I know we are running out of time, but I don't know, Chief, if you want to address just a few of these questions.
Amy, I think maybe if you can address some of those questions offline, that would be ideal. And if individuals want to follow up with us directly, the chief and I would be open to that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
thank you very much, everyone.
Well, I would just like to close by saying thank you for your attention today. We have a great community. We have a great community, and we have a motivated police department that wants to serve all of you. And we will do the best we can with what we have to provide the highest level of service to all of you. So it is my honor to be your police chief, and I would assure you that my staff, as well as myself, will continue to serve you and try to do all we can to address your priorities. So I thank you for your attention and bearing with me as I went through the presentation, because I know it was a lot of information. And I will see you all at the safety fair and maybe coffee with the cops. So thank you to everyone, and have a good evening.
Looking forward to it, Chief. Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.